SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.
Good morning. We are going to call House Ag and Natural Resources Committee to order. We want to welcome you all here and enjoy the good food they brought. And this will be kind of a open session here we're going to have today. But first, we're going to have the Madam Secretary please call the roll.
Representative Goodwin. Here. Hunt.
Here.
Ismay. Excused. Ladner.
Here.
May. Excused. Knowles.
Here.
Peterson. Excused. Rice.
Here.
Schubeck. Here. Van Dypen.
Here.
Whitman. Here. Gosh.
Here.
Overwig.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. With that, we're going to need to have some minutes approved of the last meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Representative Gosh, seconded by Representative Rice to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are approved. Okay. Well, we have the Stumprud family with us today, the Leopold winners, and that's what we're here this morning for. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Ehlers if she wants to take over from here and kind of do the introductions and go from there. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm not sure you should say I get to take over. But my name's Angela Ehlers. I represent South Dakota Conservation Districts. And you all have a flyer like this in front of you, I believe. And the Leopold Conservation Award is created by the Sand County Foundation. How many of you are familiar with Aldo Leopold? Yay. Wrote a great conservation philosophy and ethics, and the Sand County Foundation was created as a result of that. In 2010, we started doing the Leopold Conservation Award to recognize producers across South Dakota that have done a wonderful job of integrating conservation into their practices and supporting the ethics of Aldo Leopold. If you look on the last page, you will see all the people, or the organizations and people that support the Leopold Conservation Award. And actually, the Grassland Coalition is the major sponsor. But Judge always gives me this job. Judge is hiding in the back. So with that, and you may notice some of the names on here are people that you know well. There's been a couple legislators that are on the list. So we encourage you to take a look at that. But this week, today, we are here to honor the Stumprud Angus Ranch, which is near Mud Butte, and I'll let Larry describe that more. And there's a small write-up in here. I will let you know that as a part of the Leopold Conservation Award, we have a tour of their facility, and then they also receive a $10,000 cash award, and then there's a really nice glass trophy that goes with it. Last year at the Stumprud's place, it was held in August. I came out there with sunscreen thinking, yeah, it's going to be hot and dry in Mud Butte area. They got, 2 inches of rain the day before? 3 inches. I would have gladly traded my sunscreen for all the mosquito spray in the world. But it was a great tour. And so with that, I'm going to invite Larry to come up and we'll get the video running after he introduces himself. And he has his son and daughter-in-law here, and I'll let them introduce it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, Larry.
Morning.
The mic is yours.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm much better at answering questions than I am making speeches, so I'd prefer to do that. But I'll make some comments
Well,
too.
you just make some comments, and then if someone on the committee has a question as we go through, go ahead and shout at me, and we'll get you in. So go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Our ranch was started in 1909 when my grandfather homesteaded in the area. My grandmother came a year later and homesteaded near him, and somehow or another they got acquainted. And our ranch contains both of their original homesteads, as well as the homestead of my grandmother's two brothers. Over the years, it's expanded. My grandfather in the 40s was able to purchase a good chunk of what's now our ranch at tax auction. Things were tough back then. But they struggled over the years, but managed to, I suppose we're here because they were stubborn, because I know things weren't easy. I came back in 1995 after a stint with South Dakota Game and Fish, and then later a career as on active duty with the National Guard. And so my grandfather and my dad and my uncle basically ran the ranch and were the genesis of what we have now. We hope that we have continued the stewardship properly. We've had a lot of help. We're not afraid to take share funding from sources that match, that are with, how should I say, that fit the goals of our management. Probably the thing that has changed environmentally our ranch more than anything else is in 2005 we drilled a deep well in cost share with an EQIP program with USDA, and that has changed things immensely. We no longer had to rely on runoff water to water our livestock. We're strictly a ranch. We have no farming. We don't do any cropping at all. So water was essential in our operation. And we were able to, with that program and subsequent programs, we were able to pipe water to all our pastures, and we subdivided our pastures, and we do more intensive grazing than was ever done before. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 pastures now. When I was a kid, we had about 6. And so the vegetation has responded favorably, and we hope to continue to keep improving it. So I'd sure, Mr. Chairman, I'd sure entertain any questions. Okay.
Can I do that from here?
You want to answer a couple of questions first, Angela, or?
You might get a lot of things to ask on the.
Okay, we'll find them. Are you okay waiting? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, let me introduce
Please do.
my son and my daughter-in-law, Jay and Jennifer. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, welcome.
Jay grew up an Army brat, and so he didn't really have any experience.
Do I like the ranch more?
Should I wait?
No, I'll start it when you're
In
ready.
2007, they elected to join me, and we were tickled to death to get them. And Jennifer, they met when Jay was in high school on the beaches of Kailua, Hawaii. So Jennifer, she made a big change when she moved here, and we just love her to death.
Are you ready?
My goal is not to ever let a cow have a bad day.
Where's my sound?
Which do I like more? Do I like the ranch more? Or do I like the cows more? That'd be a tough one for
I
me
did
to
on here.
answer. Because I like the genetics.
If you look at
I like the fact, making cows better.
So we are aware of Larry's service in the military as a young man, because the opportunity to return home to this ranch wasn't in the best interest of the family nor himself personally at that time. And so he went and pursued a career in service to his country. And then when the opportunity did present itself to come back to the ranch, that service continued. I can see the heart of a servant in the man.
That brought me back to the ranch in 1995 after I retired. The easiest I can say it is that the ranch is part of me.
He wants to take good care of the ground and do things right, and he'll never stop. I can't think of a practice that he's implemented that I've said, like,
My goal is not to ever let a cow have a bad day. Which do I like more? Do I like the ranch more? Or do I like the cows more? That'd be a tough one for me to answer. Because I like the genetics. I like the fact, making cows better.
So we are aware of Larry's service in the military as a young man, because the opportunity to return home to this ranch wasn't in the best interest of the family nor himself personally at that time. And so he went and pursued a career in service to his country. And then when the opportunity did present itself to come back to the ranch, that service continued. I can see the heart of a servant in the man.
That brought me back to the ranch in 1995 after I retired. The easiest I can say it is that the ranch is part of me.
he wants to take good care of the ground and do things right, and he'll never stop. I can't think of a practice that he's implemented that I've said, like, that's wrong. It's more like, why are we doing it this way? And he'll say, this is why.
I don't consider myself an innovator, but I consider myself more of an early adopter of practice. I'll let somebody else make the mistakes and I'll learn from their mistakes.
One of the things, in my opinion, that makes us unique among ranching operations that I don't know of anywhere else is he came back here, he educated himself on industry best practices. So already he was changing things before I even thought about coming out here. So when I came out here, he didn't have these, I've been doing it this way for 40 years attitude. It was like, well, this is what I've read and this is what and then if I had a new idea, he'd entertain it. He'd never like shoot anything down. And he might tell me like, well, this is why that doesn't work, because I was getting educated fresh, and so was Jen on everything.
The Beef SD program came up and Stacy Hadrick gave us a call and she said, you guys need to apply for this. And at that point, it was a 3-year program, fully covered. And it was the first time that we really got to dig in deep with our knowledge together and learn at the same time.
But what we learned there together as a couple, Jen and I, was super valuable. So this ranch is well over 100 years old now in the family. So the legacy aspect of it is undeniable in terms of motivation.
That part was so important to us when we decided to come back. And so making sure that the land is cared for, that we are good stewards of what God has put into our hands. So whether that's the grass or the water or the critters or the wildlife, I think those are things that we really think about.
How do we take care of the grass so 10 years from now we still have grass that's better? It's always better. So one thing that he's really good at is finding out what programs are available that help us meet conservation goals, because conservation is expensive.
I think I can attribute Rod Baumberger for one, Dave Schmidt for another, and Dave Steffen for getting me involved in helping set up the Grassland Coalition. We had 2 or 3 meetings in Pierre where we discussed that organization and how to go about it. And then I served briefly on the first board of directors of the Grassland Coalition.
They are able to think about their operation and how they're managing it as a system. You know, whether it's moving their calving date or changing their marketing strategy, you know, they really understand and practice the 3 pillars of sustainability. So economically, they actually know what their break even is on their animals. And Stomp-Roots have not only kind of economically made their operation viable, but also environmentally. They're not done learning about ranching, how to, you know, improve the profitability of their operation, and, you know, most importantly, how to make sure that it's still there for Jay and Jen's kids and their kids and, you know, everyone after that.
The Leopold Award honors Aldo Leopold. Both my granddad and my dad embodied what Leopold wrote about. So it's quite an honor for me to receive this award.
We're really excited for him because that was one of his goals, his main goals in life. And we've supported him wholeheartedly, and we just kind of do what we need to do to make it a success for him.
I think for both Jay and I, continuing the education and the advocacy is a really cool part for us. We love sharing our story. We love having people out here. We love teaching people and talking to people.
I enjoy ranching. I like cows. I like being able to do the things that we've been talking about, the cross fencing, and make things better. You know, I'm not going to live long enough to see the end result of this, but I'd like to think that I had something to do with making the ranch better.
Very nice. Very nice. I think we probably got some questions. I think Representative had a question. Go ahead. Good one. Go ahead.
Yeah, Larry said you talked about drilling a deep well. How deep did you have to go down?
We went 3,700 feet. The reason the genesis of that well is kind of an interesting story. I might relate to you. Our waters, I mentioned the runoff water, but the wells that we had were very shallow wells on creek bottoms. 15, 20 feet probably at the most. And we're in the Sulphur Creek drainage. Well, that gives you an idea of some of the problems. The high sulfur caused me in the early, in say 2002, 2003, I was losing yearling cattle to polioencephalomyelitis, which is brought on by high levels of sulfur. And so I was looking for a way, and I couldn't get water from the reservation over in Ziba County. I couldn't get water from Butte County. I couldn't get Butte-Meade County Water District. I looked at Big Well in Fruitdale, what did it take to pipe water out there. But the technician at our conservation district in Faith encouraged me to check into this in an EQIP program, and the timing was perfect. The cost share, because I was less than 10 years, by about a week when I signed the paperwork, qualified me for a lot better cost share than had it been a week later. But my neighbor and I went together and drilled this well, and it's been a game changer.
Any other questions from the committee? Oh, Representative Schuback.
So I saw the old combine sitting there in the video. So we've got some friends that ranch in your area, and a lot of them either put it back into grass because farming's kind of a hassle to them, or they rent it out. Did you do any of that, or did you just go the whole route of
our
not buying farmland, I guess?
Well, I'm not sure which part of the story to tell you first. That combine is not mine. That combine if you recall, after the Blizzard Atlas, we had a super year, and I had a alfalfa seed crop, and so I enlisted a neighbor to combine my grass seed or my alfalfa seed on shares. And so that combine is his, and it's been sitting there for 12 years now. So, yeah. Our family at one time did raise a little oats, a little barley. I've never seen any corn in my lifetime except a garden with some sweet corn in it. But any farming that we do would be just to put hay ground back into hay.
If you want your neighbor to get his combine back, just take a part off it. He'll be here the next day to get it, right? I think Representative Whitman has a question for you.
First, thank you for being here today. One thing we hear a lot about in this committee is how special the generational transfer and sharing of land is for our ranchers and our farmers. And so you mentioned that your father and grandfather were a part of this land, and now your son and your grandkids are. And so just looking ahead, as you look at how the landscape has changed over the last couple of decades, what do you think future challenges are going to be for your grandkids with balancing conservation and profitability?
Well, the first thing we have to do is get them interested in ranching. They got a taste of it. They grew up. They grew up there, but they are pursuing different careers themselves right now. If they decide, hopefully, I'll probably be gone by then. But hopefully, if they decide to come back to the ranch at some point in time, that it'll be there for them.
Any other questions by the committee? Representative Rice.
Thank you for your story. I love it. How do you go about transforming, I think you did 30 small pastures to rotate your cows, and tell us how that works.
It's been a bit of an evolution. When I came back in '95, one of the pastures that we had was about
1,600 acres, I think. I decided that we needed to break that up, so I cross-fenced that, and at that point in time, I thought the way to go was electric. So, and trying to save money, I put up, what I did is I built, put a place for a tank in the middle of the square so that I could water my cattle, all 4 pastures at one place. And then I piped overground, I piped water from a dugout and a remote site generator because there was no power close to that, and solar power really wasn't a thing yet then. But since then, it's kind of evolved, and at this point in time, I've taken fiberglass oil sucker rod and cut it up into 4 feet posts, drilled a hole in from the top and drove those in the ground. So rather than buying steel posts for $5.25 a piece, I've got maybe $2 at the most wrapped up. That's a stretch too, wrapped up in each of these posts with some labor in it. And we've powered, the technology has gotten to the point where we can power our whole ranch from a charger in right near the house. And with those fiberglass posts, we don't have to worry about shorting out on steel and so forth. But we're down to about probably averaging about 100 acres per pasture. We throw all our cows into one herd, so we get as much stock density as we can, and then we move them lots quicker, and that gives the tenets of grazing is rest and rotation, and with rest being emphasized.
You have to have the water. We had to have the water.
You punch the button there.
The key to the cross fencing was water. So I can't remember how many years ago, that same piece of ground that he had divided up 4 ways with one water source in the middle, we entered into a program, was it?
Equip, I think.
Equip, and we put in another 10 tanks. Without the water supply, it's kind of a moot point. Cross fencing is a moot point if there's not water. So by putting more tanks out, then we realized, hey, we can cross this again. So that same single pasture is 16 today. We just finished that up last year, and we got a little. We weren't planning on do that originally when we placed the extra water, but we were making it work. But that's the key. The key to any kind of cross fencing, you have to have water, and there are more creative ways to do it than we did it. There's portable waters now, and you could actually just stub water pipes out without having tanks, and then move the tank, because our cattle are spending at most about 2 weeks,
Very most.
at the most, on a piece of ground. So that's one of the things, like Krista mentioned, that we're not done learning, and there's a lot of room for creativity, and no operation will be like another operation. So that's just, it's very interesting, and the technology is coming along. We don't have our setup to do it, but we have a fencer, the thing that powers the electric fence, that once I get it in the right spot, we'll be able to remotely turn it on and off with our phones, so if we needed to work on it, or even find faults in the fence using our phones. So that's next on my list this spring, is getting that over by the house where I can get Wi-Fi to it, and technology really helps.
We've got a project in the works for this summer, another 10,000 feet of pipe and a couple more tanks. But the key is resting. You know, if 100 cows, you know, on a pasture, on a bigger pasture for a season, versus 100 cows on 10 pastures that are 1/10 the size is much better for the environment and for the grass. And so by doing that, we can eventually increase our stocking rate as well and become more profitable as well. So, you know, there's a little bit of escapes me. Any other questions?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Representative.
Thank you, and I'll give you some compliments as we go here. But I was curious about your decision to do the well, you know, a deep well. That was a lot of money, right? And doing the piping. Do you guys have access to rural water in your region, or is that off the table? I mean, there's a lot of costs for rural water too, right? But I was just curious how you got to the decision to invest in that deep well and do all that.
I would love to have been able to tap into rural water, but we don't have anything closer than 50 miles.
Well, I'll just ask you some questions. So I know it's rude to ask someone how many cows they got. So you're saying you've got your cows in 100 head lots. Is that what you're saying, herds?
No. We run about, depending on the year, and we run between 200 and 300 mother cows. And we'll once they've calved, we throw them all into one herd.
Okay, so you said you took your, did I hear you right saying when you came back you had 6 pastures and now you have 30?
6 pastures is going back a little further than that. That was going back to probably 1950.
Okay, so did you gain more land or just you got more pastures because you cross-fenced everything?
Just cross-fenced because more pastures. Okay. The ranch is pretty much the same as it's been since I was a boy.
So then if you got them in all in one herd and you start and you say you're moving every 2 weeks, when you get to the last pasture, it's got to be very mature if you haven't been on there yet, right?
It depends. It can be, and one thing the research that has been accomplished over the years, the cow is very good at taking that fiber and converting it into high quality protein if we give them the right nutrients to do that. And we've teamed up with one of the mineral companies and have found a pretty good way of taking that what's cured. And native grass is pretty good at holding its protein. I mean, it still isn't like it is when it's green, but we've supplemented with a protein product that they do very well on cured grass.
Yeah.
The other part of that is, and we have done it some years, we flash graze in the spring, so they take the grass, get them off of that very quick, you know, just 2 or 3 days maybe, get them off of that, and then we can come back around later in the year, and it's more nutritious than if we would have not grazed it, and we can extend our grazing period that way, and that early grazing doesn't seem to affect the health of the plant either, as long as you don't hit it too hard or too long.
So you don't have a tame grass problem coming in if you don't get it at the pastures fast enough, is what you're saying?
We do have a problem with crested wheatgrass and brome grass.
but the majority of our pastures are pretty much native.
Yeah, that was just my question. It got so mature that pretty soon that brome grass starts taking everything over. It's kind of a weed in itself, isn't it?
My grandfather worked for what at that time was the Agricultural Adjustment Administration, I think it was, back in the 30s. He tried and tried and tried to get brome grass established, and I wish he would have failed.
He was only half successful, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Representative Peterson.
I just want to commend you really quickly for all the work that you do on behalf of your family and then our industry too. I mean, it's when you can tell your story and get the good news out there about what ranchers are doing to do good for the environment and our operations at the same time. I mean, as we all know, I mean, our industry is misunderstood sometimes, and we can do it the right way, and it can work for our families. And you know, most of the ag producers in the house are in this room. There's not a lot of us, right? And sometimes we have people that come into the building that want to help us, and sometimes they don't. And water access is one of them. So that's why I asked it, because some people are concerned about who's using water and where it's going and things like that. But we can't run our operations without water. And I don't want ag to lose because of some other interest. But just again, and thanks for everybody else that sets up these programs, because the more that people know we're doing our best and we're trying to do right, the better I think people give us a little bit of grace, because we all give each other grace. But when you can show people that we're doing it right, that really helps our industry. So thank you for doing that.
Anyone else? Hang on here. Oh, yeah, no. Anybody else got a question or a comment on today's? Well, I would just echo that. It's refreshing to see that the thing is that most people don't realize is if you stop tomorrow, you're just going to go backwards, aren't you? The work's never going to end for you. You just got to keep going. Love to see it. Go ahead.
There's one other thing that I'd like to mention is the video that you saw made it look like it was all Larry, and it's not. This is a family thing, and I'm doing it for Jay and Jen, and perhaps the grandkids, but it's not just me. It's, you know, we're just stewards of it for a little while.
Trust me, there's quite a few of us on here that understand exactly what you just said, because that's our life too. Okay, anything else? Angela, did you have anything else, or you guys, are you anything more? Yeah, let's give them a hand. Great job, guys.
Just one final item to let you know that the pizza and the orange juice was provided by the members of South Dakota Ag Unity. Same people who host the Ag Fest, who come to hopefully in February and see. Before you all leave, I'd love to get a picture of you guys with the Stomproots.
Oh, sure.
And we can do a little social media with that, if you don't mind. Okay.
Be great.
Otherwise, no, we're at your leisure.
Okay, and I see we have pages in the room.
Yes, you do.
And I'm going to need the pages. We have a little thing here. Every morning when we start, we have the pages come up and introduce themselves. So I'm going to have the YouTube pages come on up. Turn the mic on, or it is on. You're good. We're doing things pretty loose here this morning, Angela. So tell us who you are, where you are from, and what your future plans are.
Hi, my name is Abigail Lewis. I'm from Flanger, South Dakota, and I'm a senior in high school. And next year I plan on attending Dakota State University for Network and Security Administration.
Hi, I'm Mallory Gant. I'm from Geddes, South Dakota, and next year I plan on going to SDSU for agricultural business, and then I later plan on returning home to my family farm.
And then do what?
Raise herder cattle.
There you go. And tell them which district you're from.
Your district? 21?
District 21. They're the greatest.
Might be a little biased.
I actually did the nutrition work for her family's bulls for quite a few years, so I know Mallory and her family. So welcome. Glad you guys are here. Okay, is there anything else anybody has? Well, you know what? Then I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It is moved by Representative Goss, seconded by Representative Knowles, that we adjourn for the year. Everyone, for it, say aye. Opposed? No. We are adjourned. Roll call. Thank you.
SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from Pierre. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB helps shape South Dakota's future by educating, informing, and inspiring the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and creators. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB serves South Dakota through an interconnected communication system that is on 24/7, 365. The first place for Amber Alerts, public safety announcements, and EAS messages. SDPB keeps public servants and citizens informed. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota Legislature and in-depth reporting from Pierre. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder.
We're going to get started. The joint legislative procedure will now come to order. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Healy? Here. Jamison? Here. Mullally?
Present.
Odenbach?
Here.
Overwig?
Here.
Lems?
Here.
Dibert?
Here.
Larson? Here. Peterson? Here. Pischke? Excused. Perry?
Here.
Melhoff?
No. Here.
Hanson?
It's fine.
Here.
And Carr.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. We're today going to be discussing the calendar. We're going to make a recommendation for the chambers regarding our calendar. We're also going to talk about some joint rules that we'd like LRC to do some research on for the next session, provide some recommendations to the next group of presiding officers. So, personal privilege, Senator Dibert, granted.
Thank you very much. Today is a great day. It's Packer Day, Green Bay Packer Day at the Capitol, and I want everybody to celebrate it with me.
It's a non-germane.
Okay, thank you.
Packer Day or something.
Yeah, go Packer Day, huh? All right, we're gonna talk about the calendars. Would ask, Director, do you want to walk through them? Or Rachel? Yeah. So we have three calendars. We have A, B, and C is one that I had just drafted for consideration, and I'll let Rachel cover them, and I can cover C if you'd like.
Mr. Chair, Rachel Pearson, Chief of Legislative Operations for the Legislative Research Council. Drafts A and B are basically the same calendar, following the same calendar as we have this year. The only difference you'll notice is because Easter Monday is that 29th, Draft A brings us back for veto day on the 30th, that Tuesday after Easter Monday, and Draft B would bring us back on Wednesday for veto day in case anybody wanted extra time during the Easter holidays.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions on A and B? A or B? All right, so C, I just simply asked, for discussion purposes, to create a calendar that only has 4-day weeks, so we would remove the 5-day week. This takes us down to 37 legislative days, though. So it's 1 day less than the other two calendars. Any questions on that one? Let's open it up for some discussion on these calendars. Representative Jamison.
I like option C.
All right.
That fast turnaround that occurs on those weekends is really challenging, and any less, the more we can eliminate that, I think the better it is for everybody. That's all.
Thank you. Representative Overwig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would like to echo that, except my question is, if we would adopt C, what would be the problem of the last week making that a 5-day week, just in case we would need it? Put the 5-day week on the end, and that way if we would need it, or whoever here would need it, they could do it, but if not, we just don't use it.
Well, that's something to consider. I think if you put a 5th day on the end, then it'll likely probably get used.
Okay, but otherwise, I like the all 4-day weekends. It works very well for a citizen legislature.
Mr. Leader.
Yes, Senator Peterson.
Thank you. I like the 4-day week as well. I'm a little bit concerned about whittling down our legislative days. I mean, we are slammed here, and we do have the possibility of 40 days. So I would be interested in possibly tagging on a couple on the end or something like that. I don't know if it gives us a full week, but I think it's something to consider.
Okay. So you're saying you'd like to add a couple days on, like the next week, that 15th and 16th?
Yes.
In the past, when I've proposed that idea, because I am typically a proponent of having the extra days to work, there hasn't been a lot of support. And so that's where I came up with this, because it seems like the last few years, everybody wants to have less and less time, less legislative days.
I would support what you just said.
Okay. Representative Hanson.
Well, I've always been happy to spend one more day out here with you, Mr. Chairman.
That. It's just you and me. We can do that anyhow, I guess.
Well, I would push back a little bit and say that my preference would be B, which is what we've been operating under. I don't like the 2-day weekends either. Trying to get back home and then back out, especially, if you have Sunday evening meetings, which many of us do, makes it a real challenge. We're still going to have, even under C, a couple of those. So that doesn't really eliminate those. We still have at least 2 of those, it looks like. But also, eliminating a Monday before crossover day. I mean, there are just some of these committees like Judiciary and State Affairs, maybe some others, Education, where we're really jammed up. And I would hate to trim off one Monday, Wednesday, Friday committee hearing because they need time to do their work before crossover day. And so I would resist that and just stick with B. I think we were able to process, the most amount of bills that we've had in this legislative body since 1998 this year. We did a good job at it. But if you eliminate one of our committee meeting days, that's going to be a challenge. So that would be my hesitation on C.
So you're saying by eliminating the 5th of January?
Right.
That's your concern? I just want to be clear what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about...
We talked about a Monday, and there's no Mondays that are being changed.
I'm saying getting rid of a Monday, Wednesday, Friday committee. So yeah, by cutting off one day of a Monday, Wednesday, Friday committee, that is cutting off that Friday, the 5th, that could be a problem for some of those committees that get real slammed.
Okay.
And, we already have... I probably don't need to belabor this, but we already have the necessity to limit testimony. People come in from all across the state. They come in, they sit there, they're told they have 2 minutes. It's like, that's not ideal, but I get it. It's because we only have 40 days max. But to cut off another meeting is going to limit that even more. And I just hate to do that. I think we should give the committees more time to work, and I think having that Friday there is good for our committees that meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Mr.
Right.
Chair?
Senator Peterson, can I come back to you? I'm going to go to Representative Healy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also really concerned about calendar C because if you look at the dates for when everything is due by, nothing changes, and I am in agreement with the good representative from Minnehaha County that that's going to be really difficult for a lot of committees that are meeting in the morning and then also have to come back after session is done to meet in the afternoon for a few more hours. So my concern would be that getting rid of that February 5th day is going to be incredibly difficult to get the work done and the bills through before crossover day.
Okay, thank you. I want to go to Senator Peterson and then Senator Dybert.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. So I wonder if we could see an option of adding those 2 or 3 extra days in the following week. If we expand it to 40 days, then I think our deadlines would shift, and maybe that would help ease some of that. I can't really visualize it without something in front of me, but adding those days might help.
Yeah, I don't think the deadlines would shift unless we moved the deadlines. Is that Mr. Director or Rachel?
That's in the red book. There's a rule.
So Rachel Pearson, Chief of Legislative Operations. If you added the Friday, the 12th, nothing would essentially switch other than if you look at 2027C, that JR 513 may switch because it would switch to the 37th day. And that's following the deadlines that are in the Chapter 17 of the Red Book.
Mr. Chair,
Senator?
but I was referring to adding additional days the following week.
The 15th and 16th.
Mm-hmm. So we get a couple extra days there. I don't know if that makes a difference, but instead of having that Friday the 12th, you would push those to the next week.
Rachel?
The only issue with that is you have to also allow the governor 15 days to take on bills. So that recess has to have at least 15 days in it, which would allow the governor to look at all the bills and decide if he would like to veto the bill.
Mr. Chair. So we just move veto day, right? I mean, we've had 40-day sessions in the past, and we've figured out a calendar, maybe not in our time, but they've done it in the past, and it all just shifts. Veto day's just later.
Okay. So 15 days, you're talking about weekends too, right? Yeah, so there's more than 15 days. It would be possible.
It would be
Theoretically.
possible, that's just something you'd have to consider. And then as far as pushing veto day back, another consideration that you would want to take into consideration is that you also have to allow 90 days. So the Constitution says we have to have 90 days between the end of session and when those bills take effect July 1st.
Senator Dybert.
Thank you. Well, a couple observations. I think we have the ability to add a day if we need to. I think we have that ability in the bodies. And so I kind of like C. And the committee's getting jammed up is not a result of the calendar as much as it is a result of people holding on to their bills. We can make the process more effective by bringing the bills earlier and not holding up the system. And we need to encourage people to do that, because early in the session, those committees are thirsty for bills and they're not there because people are holding them. Now, I understand some are not ready, but that's not always the case. So if we encourage people to bring their bills earlier, we can solve that logjam.
Okay. Other comments? Senator Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, I think Area D, which would be the Peterson idea, isn't getting a lot of reception. I think we just need to make a decision between B and C and have the decision made.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thinking this through, I think to me the biggest issue is having sufficient time to hear all the bills and give the voice to all the people who show up to testify on them. Having chaired House State Affairs the last 2 years, it has been an amazing thing for me to see how much we have to limit time on weighty matters because we are so jammed up hearing so many bills in such a short period of time. So I would be concerned about anything that limited one of those Monday, Wednesday, Friday, unless we do something else to limit the number of bills people bring. If it's up to me, we should come down on the side of making sure there's enough time to have people be able to testify and show up to be heard on all the bills that we are required to hear.
Thank you. Representative Mullally.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going from some experience with Pennington County. Their administration had gone to a 4-day week, and they found that it didn't work because the citizens, who rely on that. I'm okay with the 40 days that Senator Peterson had mentioned because, we're capable of doing 40 days. Why don't we start the legislation earlier? Instead of the 12th, start it earlier. And then that would eliminate the veto day timing and 90 days. I'm okay with serving 40 days, but that's me.
I agree. Well, like I said, when I started this, going back to my first term after serving in appropriations, I said, what are we doing? We should have the days that we need. But consistently year after year I've been here, and folks want to be here less and less days. It is what it is. And we've delivered. And, you know, to be fair to the other folks they're going to say, look, last year we delivered the G bill on day 35, legislative day 35. That's the goal this year too. So can we get the work done or not? One more, Senator Larson.
Just one more comment. Like, you know, we have already, I think with 40 days, one of the shortest legislative sessions of any state. If we go down to 37, I'm pretty sure that we will be the shortest. And while I appreciate the advantages of having a citizen legislature, on the one hand, I also believe that sometimes, similar to what the good senator or the good representative from the Black Hills was saying, sometimes I feel like we're shortchanging people in being able to do the work of the people, and not only just having them testify, but just being able to be here, think through different policy ideas. And so I just want to point out that there's a downside to having a short legislative session as well.
Thank you. Okay, so no other comments right now. I'm going to open it up for any public comments. We got anybody that would like to weigh in on the calendar? Anybody wants to weigh in on the calendar? Last call. Lauren, you want to tell us something? Come on up. Geez, I got to call him out now. Just a writer to identify yourself, please, and sign in.
Lauren Pankratz from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So this was an interesting debate, and I've sat through some of these before. So I started coming out here in 1984. And at that time, if I remember correctly, we had 2 calendars. And the year after the election was a 40-day calendar. And then the following year was 35 days. And I think it was, I think the part of the rationale for that, even though I wasn't involved in those discussions, was it gave everybody less time to cause trouble before the next election. So 5 less days. So, and it was, I can't remember the date, but I think Senator Corey Brown was probably here when they started going to, you know, specific number of days. And I don't know that we've hit 40 any one of those times. So in whatever my wife tells me, I should never do math on the fly. So however long that is since 1984 when I first started coming out here, I think that, and the work was always done, whether it was 35 days or 40 days. And I think the same thing occurs during the current session. So that, you know, the work needed for the times allotted, they'll fill up the days. Some days, some weeks, some sessions, there's talk of finishing early, skipping a day. And I think we did it once because the work was done. So I think people have the access that they need. I'm not sure that more days necessarily solves problems that you have. I mean, you're smart folks, you can get the work done. And so with that, my parting comments, and I guarantee you that this is my last legislative session. I guarantee. Round of applause. Thank you.
Okay, so what I heard was a vote for C. That was my takeaway. Thanks, Lauren. Now look where we started.
I know. I'll be brief, Mr. Chairman.
Sanderson,
Nathan
go ahead.
Sanderson, South Dakota Retailers Association. Whether you choose calendar B or C doesn't really matter a whole lot. What you guys are talking about is you're talking about the days necessary to do the work, right? The vast majority of the days that you need to do the work come prior to crossover day. That's really when you need the additional time for the hearings that you're talking about and that kind of thing. And so if you're going to add additional days, which you can certainly do, you should do those earlier on in the session. And in order to do that, that necessitates 5-day weeks. Because as was mentioned, you have to end basically before that 90-day threshold, before the bills go into effect, right? And so you kind of have to work backwards from those 90 days. And so respectfully, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good to add additional days after crossover. If you're going to add additional days, which of course is your right to do, the best time to do that is prior to crossover day.
Okay, sounds like a vote for B. Anybody else? Last call for public testimony. Okay, we're going to close public testimony. We're going to move into committee action. It would be to adopt a calendar. Correct. And the motion would be to adopt a calendar. So I move to adopt B or C or C. Go ahead, Representative Jameson.
How about D?
I'll make a motion to adopt calendar C.
Very good.
No.
Okay, I got a motion by Representative Jameson, seconded by Senator Dybert to adopt C. Comments? Any additional comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I'm at a little different perspective here because I'm quitting, as it would be said. And, but as a guy who has been through here certainly 8 years, and a guy who's tried to run a business over the weekends during the session, there's a balance here that I think is needed for all of us, even our own personal lives, let alone if you're trying to run a business, but your personal lives matter. And a lot of us have seen the challenges that this session and these sessions put on our families. And so I'm trying to find a balance of all this. We get our work done. Certainly, the pressure is on. I'm just asking for a little more balance. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'm going to go to Senator Melhoff and then Representative Overweg. Senator.
Yeah, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we adopt calendar B.
I have a motion to adopt calendar B, or substitute motion by Senator Melhoff. It was seconded by Representative Healy. Comments on that substitute motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I respect what the representative from Sioux Falls just said, but I think we actually do have a pretty good balance at this time. And I think the arguments for taking that extra committee day away are pretty valid, having chaired a very busy committee and served on another very busy committee where we were having to have additional meetings, and to take that away I think would put too much pressure on the process. And we're here to do a job, and we have to do a good job with the time that's allotted to us, and I think losing that day would upset the balance, frankly.
Okay, other comments? Representative Overweg.
Thank you. Well, the good senator beat me to my motion, but yeah, I do agree with the good representative from Sioux Falls. I own businesses. A 4-day week would be nice, but I'm also the guy the last 2 years that did the scheduling for House State Affairs, and we just cannot give that up. We need that time. So I'm going to support the motion for calendar B.
Any other comments? Yes, Senator Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, on B, it's an efficient system. It's something that's been effective, and we've been doing it for a couple years. And the second thing is we are a citizen legislature, and it doesn't really require us to be gone, but just a couple times with 5 days. And the other thing is it's a cost saving to the taxpayer if we control this and keep it to a lower number. When we go to larger numbers, it becomes more expensive. An answer to the question of can we cover more and have people speak more? We've had afternoon sessions before. I'm not against working harder. And the other thing that I would say is it's not broke. I don't think we need to fix it. I'm going to support B.
Okay. Other comments? Well, I'll just weigh in a little bit. I understand the comments. I'll just say this. You have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday committee. doesn't mean that they're locked into that either. This year we had our judiciary schedule a meeting for Tuesday, and they normally meet on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for this very reason. So it's possible if you schedule and plan that you can take care of your business during these days. So seeing no other comments on this, Madam Secretary, will you call the roll? This is a substitute motion to adopt calendar B made by Melhoff, seconded by Representative Healy.
Healy?
Aye.
Jamison?
Nope.
Mullally?
Aye.
Odenbach?
Aye.
Overwig?
Aye.
Lems?
Aye.
Dybert?
Aye.
Larson? Peterson?
No.
Pischke is excused. Perry?
Aye.
Melhoff?
Aye.
Hanson?
Aye.
Carr?
Nope.
Mr. Chair, you have 10 yeas, 3 nays, and 1 excuse.
That motion passes. Okay, we're going to recommend calendar B to our bodies. We're going to talk about some of the joint rules, and we're not going to make any changes to the rules today, but it's looking at some of the rules and asking LRC to do some research so that they can make recommendations to the next group of leadership and the next representatives and senators. So there should be a 4th page to your packet here, consideration of joint rules. The first issue is the call of the House. So the Senate experienced the call of the House a few times this year. And one of the concerns was the threshold to call the House takes 1/6 of the members elect. So in our body, that would be 6. In the House, that's 12. Thanks, Pro Tem. Pro Tem's got it going on. Okay, so I just wanted to open it up for a discussion on that. And I don't know if LRC, if you have anything to add, Director, at this time. You provided a few bullets here. Nothing to add? Any other comments? So the thought process would be to ask LRC to look at what other states do with the call of the House. What's that threshold, and get back to us. That's basically what we're asking for. I know that they prefer to have a little bit more formal direction, so that's why there's these motions that are built into these, and I'd ask for a motion to direct LRC at this time. Senator Perry.
I'd like to make a motion to direct LRC staff to review the legislative rules in the states that we're working with, other states, and Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedures to assist vote thresholds for a call of the House and to report its findings back to this committee.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Senator Dybert, thank you. Any other comments on this? Yes, Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I will support this motion. I think it's quite the thing to behold, having everybody locked in a chamber, and then seeing the sergeant at arms and the highway patrol have to go basically find them and find the rest of them and bring them in. And so I don't know what the other states do, but I am curious to know, because it's quite the power vested in the legislature to be able to do something like that. And so if there's other states that have a higher vote threshold, I'd be just curious to see what the other states are doing, and then have the future legislature consider what the appropriate number is. So I support the motion.
Further comments, Senator Dybert. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you know, I had a pretty clean record till I became a senator. Then this year I was incarcerated 3 times by this rule. So I think we need to explore it a little more. I think it can be effective and needs to be in place, but we need to see what other people are doing.
Thank you for your comment. Any others?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Melhoff.
Yeah, I think it certainly makes sense to take a look at it, but I also don't want to be too critical of the rule. We've seen it in other states, Wisconsin, where legislators have gone on hiatus recently, in Texas. The same thing with the goal to grind government to a halt and stop majorities from advancing their agendas. I think it's irresponsible to walk off the job, and to have a tool to get people back to work, I think is good. So we should explore it. It should be a rule that's used prudently, but we definitely need to have that rule, I think.
Any other comments? I'll just say briefly, echoing the comments that were made, especially in the Senate. We experience what a disruption that is. I mean, we take very seriously our jobs. We want people here. We want them in their seats. We want them voting. But when you do a call to the House, it is a major disruption. We just got done talking about time and days, and to think that we could spend hours and hours, trying to retrieve people and find people, I don't think that that should be done lightly either. So, do you want us to vote on these, Mr. Director? Sure. We have a motion to direct the LRC staff to review the legislative rules in the surrounding states and Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure to develop a draft proposal on a process for, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. I apologize to everybody. To review the legislative rules in the surrounding states and Mason's Manual to assess vote thresholds for a call to the House and report its findings back to the committees. This is a motion made by, it was Senator Perry, seconded by Senator Dybert. This will be a voice vote. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion passes. Thank you. The next item that's on here is a little broad. It's talking about excusing members from daily session. Would you like to provide any context to this one? Very briefly, Director.
Mr. Chair, John McCullough, the Director of the LRC. The current rules are silent on the process for requesting an excused absence. So the direction to the LRC would be here to look at other states and just see what they do, not necessarily with an outcome in mind, but just provide the committee with some information on what other rules or how other rules address this issue.
Okay. Discussion, Senator Dybert.
Well, thank you. If you remember last year at this very meeting, I brought this up not only on the floor, but as a floor item, but in committees. And it's all about communication. If you're trying to run a committee and people don't communicate, I make them absent in my committee, not excused, because it disrupts the process because you don't have a quorum or you have tied votes all the time. So I think we need to look at this not only on the floor but in committees, and we need to make a distinction between excused and absent and define those, because I think the way it operates today, there's two different definitions, and absence is not acceptable and excuse may be. So I think we really need to look into this.
Thank you. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I don't, on this one, I don't think we need a written policy for everything. And one of the things that I can see coming down the pike is, maybe the chair, and by the way, it's just a little bit of background. Having served as a chair for 6 years and speaker for 2, I really haven't had much of a problem with this at all. Really, it's been essentially not a problem at all for me in all of my years as chair and speaker. Members are pretty good at communicating if they're going to be gone. If not, it's probably not a big deal. They had an excuse. Maybe they just didn't communicate it with it, but they were gone doing family things or whatever. And I could just see a scenario where now if we do this and we have a hard policy and you have to get your notice in by X amount of time before session starts or before committee starts and you don't get it in, then they're marked as absent. Now, maybe if you're that committee member, you're going to want to say, hey, I wasn't actually absent. I reached out to you. I was excused. And so then you're going to have to go and amend the minutes or amend the journal, and there's just going to be too much tension surrounding it. I don't think on this one that we need a written rule on excused versus absent. I think we should just trust our presiding officers, trust our chairs. I appreciate the concerns, but I really just, in my personal experience, haven't seen much of a problem with this where we need to put something down in writing to direct how we're going to conduct these excused versus absent situations. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to just weigh in and narrow the focus a little bit. And I think there needs to be a discussion about excusing members going back up to the first issue we talked about with the call of the House. And who, during that call of the House, who is able to grant permission for leave and or excuse members? So this was a conversation that we had a few times in the Senate. Unfortunately, you guys weren't able to be part of it, House members. You lucky buggers. And there is some concerns here that I think were very legitimate when folks were facing emergency situations, whether or not they could be excused or given permission to leave the chamber. And I take that very seriously, because I believe that we elect presiding officers, or we have a president, but it doesn't give him permission to be a warden either. All right, there has to be circumstances that allow and take into consideration legitimate reasons that people might need to leave or be gone. If there's a family member, an emergency or something of that nature. So that's where I would like to have LRC look at this more narrowed focus, especially, and have them provide a recommendation, give us some feedback. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it relates to the call of the House, I totally agree. I think that is consequential, and I think perhaps LRC should bring back some guidance on how that works. As a general proposition, I just don't think it's necessary, but as it relates to the call of the House, I completely agree with all of your comments.
Any other comments? Senator Dybert.
Thank you. Well, you know, we had that happen this year, and fundamentally it was because we had one member that wasn't here all year. That was part of the issue. And the House had one member that was gone all year either. So if we look at this holistically, should there be any changes in how that works? Not that I'm advocating any, but if those chairs were filled, we wouldn't have had some of these issues.
Appreciate the perspective. I guess to keep things moving, I'm going to ask Representative Hansen, would you be willing to make a motion that's more focused that we just got done discussing here?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that the Legislative Research Council do some research and provide some options as it relates to excused versus absent members relative specifically to a call of the House.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. I have a second by Senator Dybert. Additional comments on that motion? Seeing Senator Perry.
I'm going to go back to the person on the end. When you deal with accountability, do we have something that says this is what you do to be accountable? And yes, I agree that normally we shouldn't have to worry about this. And I'd say we have 105 different legislators, and probably 100 of them are never, ever a problem. But the reason that you have rules is because not all 100 do all the right things. And fairness is the big thing. Are we applying the same thing to the same people in all areas? Is Randy's committee, the Senator's committee, different than another House committee? Who is determining fairness? And then when we deal with this stuff, the final word that we hear all the time is transparency. Is there true transparency when I get to make my own decisions? I think I make good decisions, but maybe someone else doesn't think I make good decisions. And we have a little book that's about this thick with policies and procedures. Why do we have that book with policies and procedures? Because we need to have it written in case we have an issue in the future. And I think that this should be broader than just for the call of the House. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Any other comments? Well, the motion that was before us is to direct LRC staff to review the legislative rules in the surrounding states and Mason's manual, develop a draft proposal and process for excused absences as they relate to the call of the House. And I know that there were other, that was made by, Representative Hansen, second by Senator Dybert. I know that there's some other areas where that folks want to discuss absences, excused absences, and this doesn't limit that next leadership body to also do that. But this at least provides some direction in some key critical areas that occurred this year, this session, for them to also consider, since they weren't here and kind of lived through some of these unique circumstances. So this will be a voice vote. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion passes. Thank you. And the last issue is dealing with motions to reconsider. I'll try to recap this just a little bit. There's been different interpretations on the motion to reconsider. And this year we ran into an interpretation by the presiding officer in the Senate that you could reconsider an unlimited amount of times as long as the bill became amended and then discussed. and then reconsidered. Anyhow, I think you guys follow me, but you could do that infinitely, theoretically. If you amended the bill, heard the bill, it fails, you can move to reconsider. So that's not always been the practice or interpretation. So I want to open it up for some discussion, but this would ask LRC to look at the reconsideration motion and its limits or standards that we want to apply to it. Any comments?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Melhoff.
I would just like to make a motion, and we can comment on that possibly.
Go ahead.
Would you entertain that?
Please.
I make a motion to direct LRC staff to draft a rule proposal to clarify that an amendment to a bill does not create a new question for reconsideration.
Do I have a second? Second. So I have a motion by Senator Melhoff, seconded by Representative Hansen. Comments?
Mr. Chair, yeah, I think that makes a good point, and it was one that we voted on the Senate floor and overruled the ruling of the Lieutenant Governor, and I think we should explore that and get some clarity on that so we don't have that happening in the future.
Thank you. Other comments? Any other comments? Seeing none. The motion is to ask LRC to draft a proposal to clarify the amendment to a bill that does not create a new question for reconsideration. It was made by Senator Melhoff, seconded by Representative Hansen. This is a voice vote. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion passes. Okay. Any further, that's all I have on my agenda. Any further business? Senator Dybert.
Do we need to approve the minutes?
I believe there are some minutes from January 14th. Would you like to make a motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
I have a motion by Senator Dybert, seconded by Representative Lems to approve the minutes from January 14th, 2026. Any comments? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. No. That motion passes. Okay, any further business you'd like to bring forward?
Mr. Chair.
I'd ask for a motion.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion by Senator Melhoff, seconded by Representative Hansen to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from Pierre. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.